central theme, literally, central theme of Parshas Chukas, meaning the intermediate sugya that's in the middle of the parsha, is the story of Miriam dies, right, and because the bear was B'schus Miriam, so now all of a sudden the nation doesn't have water. All right, so Moshe Rabbeinu is commanded to, talk to the rock and whatever, for some reason that we have yet to explain later in this shir, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't talk to the rock; he hits the rock, and out comes water. All right, and this is the, the official sin as to why, he can't, go into Eretz Yisrael. So now Rashi says something over here that's a bit puzzling. On the pasuk Yan Lohem Mantem Bi, which in itself, demands an explanation. What do you mean? Moshe and Aaron don't believe in God. He's a Navi that speaks to HaKadosh Hu Panim upon him. It's like the Lashon Emunah needs an explanation. That his head is called not being Ma'amin in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right, but Rashi in his pasuk says, "Gila kas shelo echadze b'varayu nechnasim la'aretz kadei shelo yom rolem kavod shadu v'shnik zolem shelo yikansu la'aretz kachaya avoin Moshe V'Aaron." You know what Rashi is saying? It says, if not for this sin, then Moshe Rabbeinu would have had to gone into Eretz Yisrael. Why? So as to not push it, so as to not be choshed him, that the reason why he didn't go in is because he was guilty of the sins of the Dor HaMidbar, right? So, like, as it were, HaKadosh Baruch Hu waited to catch him on something, because he wasn't supposed to go to Eretz Yisrael anyway.
Because?
Right? Because. We have to get into that. He wasn't going to go into Eretz Yisrael anyway, right? Right? So, but pasnish, because if he dies in the Midbar for no apparent reason, people will think Chas v'Shalom he did the same chatoim as Dor HaMidbar. Again.
Rashi doesn't say there it's because he really was chayav for an earlier vera.
Right. Okay. Hello, Atzonu Bakar Yishachet Kosher Ve'ozu. Right, when Moshe Rabbeinu was, as it were, doubting HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Parshas Ba'aloscha, if we shecht enough, meat for them and they'll be satisfied, that's even worse than Hamin Asel Zanot Tzilchem Mayim. Afisha B'Seiser Chasach HaKasav V'Kachvar HaKasav Lo Chasach HaKasav V'Bnei Kiddush Hashem. Right? So Moshe Rabbeinu may have done things that were, more severe as far as doubting HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol, but since it was B'tzina, no one else heard it, right? No one else heard it, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to let it ride, right? But here, everyone heard it. So on this, even though it's not as severe, Kiviyachol, Hamin Asel Notzchem Mayim is not as severe as Hatzonu Baki Shachet Lehem. But here we nabbed him because this is public, and here over here we nailed him. Right?
Isn't there a little bit of a steer in Rashi himself? Because at least the way the Rav is reading it, it's making it sound like the people would have thought that he got ensnared in the same avera as the rest of the door. But then it says particularly which avera he was really chayav on. But since it was done b'seiser, people wouldn't be able to differentiate.
Make the connection. So it's not okay. So we break Kiddush Hashem. So it's mashma from Rashi that really Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't supposed to go into Eretz Yisrael anyway, right? So we go back to Parshas Ba'aloscha when he appointed the Shivim Zkenim, and then they had the nevuah that Eldad and Medad had the nevuah that Moshe made. All right, it's not the pshat that these neviim foresaw the chet of Mei Meriva. Right? From this Rashi it comes out that it's badsome that way. Moshe Rabbeinu, it's not the pshat that they foresaw the chet. Necessarily. From this Rashi, Moshe Rabbeinu is not meant to lead this door that's going into Eretz Yisrael, but mishum kvoidoi, we have to nail him on something. We have to nail him on something. And this is what we nailed him on, because since it wasn't public what he said, when he did the hit the rock as opposed to, right? So we found the thing to nail him on, right? That's what Rashi said. So what's wrong? Like ki'ilu be'etzem, it was not meant to be, right? Just we needed some aver to catch him on. That's the mashmos of Rashi. So what's like the sheni? Says Rashi Shulti Batzasa Votzi Aiti Mekudash Le'ene Yaida Vomri Masa Zushenu Medaber Venu Shomer Venu Tzocha Parosa B'kain Yoshel Mokom Kal V'chomer Anu. If you would have only done it, so Kal Yisrael would have made a Kal V'chomer, right? The rock doesn't hear and doesn't speak and doesn't need Parnasa, and still it's Mekayim what Hashem says. Kal V'chomer, we should be Mekayim what Hashem says. Well, first of all, and the fact that when you hit it and it gave what? It's not called being Mekayim Hashem's what Hashem says. It's not called being Mekayim what Hashem says. Rocks don't naturally give water. So you hit it, it's also, the rock is obeying HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's just non-verbal communication, right? But whether you buy that kasha or not, l'ch'era, there's a pircha on the kal v'chomer, right? There's a pircha on the kal v'chomer, right? Ma le'even shein lo b'chira, tomar ba'adam, that he has b'chira, right? Very well, it's equal to mifrach on the kal v'chomer. What?
Samachli simcha gedola when the Rav asked this question. I must have asked this question 15 years ago. In a certain place I was learning, and the Rosh Kol just didn't have an answer for me. This same idea is brought up a couple places in the Rishonim, and not necessarily by this particular verb, but earlier on, but ma domim, right? This idea of ma domim, I never understood it. Okay. Bezrat Hashem, this time we'll have a good
We'll try. Anyway, so now right.
Weren't there two pirchas that the Rav had on the Kal Chomer and the Shir?
No,
The two things.
This is all I remember.
Yeah.
We take a look at the two other major sugyas that there are in this parsha. Right. One is Para Aduma, and the other one, which is a Lifnei, and then there's the inyan of the Nachash HaNachosha, which is Acharei. This point in the center, which is the issue of Mei Meriva. So now there actually is a commonality between these two sugyas that are makif on the two sides of the sugya of Mei Meriva, right? And that's the inyan of Torah, right? The inyan of Torah. Now by Para Aduma, it's a lot more obvious, right? First of all, this is the quintessential chok. Quintessential chok. Right? And it's very interesting, not just by Paraduma, but in chukim in general, is where we have the inyan of Amelos Batorah. So in this week's parsha, it's on the pasuk, the famous drush of Chazal, Zois HaTorah Odum Kiyamus Ba'al. Shiyamis Atzmo Ba'al Lashel Torah. Right? Remez Amelos up to the point of Kivyachol, near death. But what's interesting to note, is that there's another place, famous place where Chazal talk about Siyah Remez to Amelos Batorah, And that's on the pasuk of Im bechukosai telechu, shetu amelim b'Torah. And then again, it's amelis is mentioned in connection to chok, bechukosai telechu, shetu amelim b'Torah. Now you would think that the ikar amelis should be said by the mishpatim, which is more, there's more room for svara, less room for innovation. But it's not the way. The Torah talks about amelos by chukim. Right, and of course, the famous issue of tamei, how chok have no tam, is midrashim in this week's parsha. Because we're talking about chukim as opposed to mishpatim, where the chukim, the tam is hidden, right? Right, but Moshe Rabbeinu, on the same pasuk, v'ikoilecha para aduma, that Rashi says already, brings one of the midrashim. Lo'olam hi kruya al shmecha. This para is going to be named after you. A para shasa Moshe, right? But Chazal say v'ikoilecha para aduma l'chani megale tamei para la'acherim chuka. For you, Moshe Rabbeinu, there's no mystery in para aduma. Oh, right. So okay, it's like in para aduma is the meaning of a male spatar, the meaning of tamei Torah. Dynamics of Torah, how for us, chukim are mystery, but not for Moshe Rabbeinu. For him, he understands it. So even Shlomo that said, Echkama v'irachokam imeni, but Moshe Rabbeinu understood Tamei Parah. Right? So now, in the Indian of the Nachash HaNachoshet, that we'll yet come back to. We didn't manage to get back to it sufficiently in Shir. Right? Nachash HaNachoshet. So, says the Ramban. There's a famous Ramban on the Nachash HaNachoshet. And he says, the Pele Hagor of Nachash HaNachoshet is that it was a nes betoch nes. And the Ramban explains, why is it, a nes betoch nes? Because as kayadua, if a person undergoes a trauma, last thing you do is, bring him in contact with the source of his trauma. And if anything, if he got sick from that trauma, bring him back into connection with the source of the trauma, only make him sicker. And he says that in his day in the medicine, a person gets bitten by a dog. Don't even mention dogs, in his presence. He talks about, right? So he says, dafka over here, people got bitten by snakes. They have to dafka look at the snake and they get healed, and that's nes betoch nes. Right, nes betoch nes, to add a little bit of explanation to the Ramban, what's this between stama nes, as it were, your conventional nes, and a nes betoch nes? So you have the famous Gemara that when Hananiah, Mishael, Vazar were tossed into the Kivshan, so the Malach Michal said, all right, I'm the angel of ice, I'm going to go down, I'm going to chill it out. Right? And Gabriel protested and said, I should be the one go, because I'm the Sar Shel Eish. So Dafka, if I save them, it's a Nes B'toch Nes. The Dafka from that which adds koach to the fire, they should be saved. And how do you say it? Voraya, the fire was so hot that the people on the outside of the fire got burnt, whereas Hanan, Mishael, Vazar were in the heart of the fire, which you think is hotter, they were chilling out. And but you see, it was the koach of the Sar Shel Eish, because it became so hot on the outside, and yet cool on the inside. And Gabriel said, let me do it so it should be a nes betoch nes. Right? So now, have you ever like this? Nes betoch nes, as opposed to nes. Nes is where it's just a matter, it's called supernatural, miloshin, simple superpower. Right? Like, let's say, Kriyas Yamsuf. We call it a nes because there's no natural force on earth, right, that can part the sea. Yafa. But you could understand, you could take out your pocket calculator and calculate what type of force would be required, right? And it could be done. Just me and you can't produce that force, but the seichel could be typhus that if you had this type of force, like if we, set off a nuclear bomb underwater, probably toss the waters aside, Right? So it's called a nes because it's more power than Teva supplies, that Teva allows for, right? Supernatural power, but the mind is colette. The mind is typhus. You can take out your pocket calculator. With this amount of power, I could split the sea, right? Nes betoch nes is, it defies logic. It's not as though it's too much power. It's more power than I have. It defies logic. Right? So now that Dafka Chananya Mishael V'Azara should be saved from the heat of the flame, from the Malach Shalesh, that added power to the fire. V'Araya became so hot on the outside, right, that the people on the outside got burnt. That's Nes B'toch Nes. That defies logic. The mind can't be typhus then. And Zok the Ramban called Darkei HaTorah Nes B'toch Nes. Very interesting Ramban. He's like shtups that in. The Darkei HaTorah are Nes B'toch Nes. Right? So we have to sort of decode that Ramban. Darkei HaTorah Nes B'toch Nes. So again, that means that the Nachash HaNachoshes, which is Nes B'toch Nes, that you dafka get healed by going back to your trauma, right? Right. So he says that's Darkei HaTorah, which needs decoding. But hey, that should be a throwback to Paraduma. Because Paraduma also is this type of Nes B'toch Nes type quality that defies logic. One of the mysteries of Paraduma is that it's mitaher the tmeim and it's mitame the tahorim, which is this Nes B'toch Nes type of quality, which the Ramban calls Kol Darkei HaTorah are Nes B'toch Nes. So the idea is like this. Right, but before we get back, there's just one more thing to add by the Nachash and Nachoshes. It is mentioned in that same Mishnah, in the end of the third parak of Rosh Hashanah, together with Milchemes HaMoed. V'chiyodav shel Moshe el sos v'chol Moshe, right? Right, so on the same, so the Mishnah goes on and says, "V'chi nochash meimisu mechaye el lomar shekol zman sheisol mistaklim kapim al shal v'yisrael." Right? Are you misrapping? Right? So I think, it's not the nochash that heal, but when they look at the nochash and they're meshabet the reika Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? Mamish like the same, like there's a commonality, in the dynamics of Milchemes HaMolek and the nochash. It's not the hands of Moshe. You just you have to look at you have to look like what's the hands are pointing to. It's not the Nachash, but sort of look at what the Nachash is pointing to. Look at the Nachash and think past it, right? But like it's a common. We have to understand the commonality between the Nachash and Nachoshes, right, and Milchemes HaMolek. Now the Maaseh, we've reached the center of what Sefer Bamidbar is all about. And Mei Meriva, which is Mamish, the center of the parsha, is the center of the center. What do I mean? As a famous medrash that we spoke about many times in Parshas Bereishis, by the creation of the Or. That Or is mentioned 5 times. The medrash darshans it Keneged the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Yehi Or is Bereishis. Vayehi Or Shmos. Varokim is Or Kitoiv. Vayikra, Vayavdel Elokim ben Or ben Achosha Sefer Bamidbar, because this Sefer, says Medrash, is Mavdil between the door of Yotzei Mitzrayim and the door Boyaretz. This is the book that differentiates, and that division happens in this parsha. What Sefer Bamidbar is Bechlal. At the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar, you're dealing with the door Yotzei Mitzrayim. By the end of Sefer Bamidbar, you're dealing with the door Boy Haaretz. Do you know where the transition actually happens? Right here in this parsha. And you know right here, where? Right here in this parsha, Mamish by Mei Meriva. Says over here. Rashi brings Kola Eda. Right, Kola Eda. Right, Kola Eda Midbar Tzin. Eda Shlema Shekvar Meitu Meisei Midbar Ve'elu Porshu Lechayim. Mamish, that Mei Meriva, which is the center of the parashas, Mamish is the center of the center. We Mamish reach point center of what Sefer Bamidbar is all about, making that line that divides between the door of Yotzei Mitzrayim, the door of which was Mason the Midbar, and the door that's going there. And Mamish, at that point, is where Moshe Rabbeinu is challenged, and he fails the challenge. He can't lead this people that's going into Eretz Yisrael. So now, the Mefarshim ask on this medrash that if you assume that the second part of the sentence is on the same scale, is symmetrical with the first part of the sentence, so it says Vayavki ben Or v'choshech, so it's mavdu between door Yotzei Mitzrayim ben door Boyaretz. That means door Yotzei Mitzrayim equals Or, and door Boyaretz is equal to choshech. There are actually Mefarshim that are so bothered by this that they want to claim that the ratio of the sentence and the sentence are not symmetrical. It's A, B, B, A. All right? How can you say, coming to Eretz Yisrael is choshech? Right? All right, but we will go with the simplest way of understanding, and for reasons that we will explain, that it's A, B, A, B. That indeed, the door Yotzei Mitzrayim is called Or, and the door of Boyaretz are called Choshech. Right. We didn't specifically state, right, in Shir, but I think we implied it very strongly, that, as much as the Midbar is not Eretz Yisrael, but you can't call it Chutz La'aretz either. Midbar is nowhere land. And we spoke about this in other shiurim. It's nowheresville. So you can't, on the one hand, even though when we get to Parshas Masah, we'll talk about how the Masos allude to the Galuyot, but still, the Midbar is not Mamish Golus in the normal sense, because it's not Chutz La'aretz. It's nowhere. People don't live in the desert. It's not called being in a Chutz La'aretz, right? It's called being nowhere. Right? So it's not like we're being Mishabeach Chutz La'aretz. When we say, the door Yotzei Mitzrayim is called Or, because you have to say, the Midbar is not really Chutz La'aretz. It's nowhere. Right?
Yeah. I would have just said it before,
Yeah.
It's a Kufa before it's Israel, so the whole comparison doesn't necessarily apply. Okay.
But I'll cope on him. So look, in the Midbar, which is nowhere, they didn't have any type of natural life. It was supernatural life. Mon from the Shemayim, and the bear, a miraculous bear, miraculous Onan, that didn't just protect you from the sunlight, but also did your laundry for you. Kitzur, the hashgacha that there is, in the the hashgacha pratis that sustains us was stripped of any levush tiv'i. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of us, but he's malbish the hashgacha in a levush tiv'i, right? But in the Midbar, it wasn't in any levush. The hashgacha was totally exposed. You saw the pure hashgacha, not in any levush. And that, of course, is called Or. To see the hashgacha ayin ba'ayin. right? In Eretz Yisrael, right, the Hanhaga is going to shift, right? And things are going to go in the Levush of Teva, and we spoke about this already. We spoke about this also Bifrat in Parsha Shlach, and there are issues over here that are sort of going to overlap with things that we said over there, right? Right? In Eretz Yisrael, it's going to go in the Levush of Teva, right? So that's called Choshech, right? In the sense that, the Hashgacha is hidden. It's, it's in darkness, darkness in the sense you can't see it. Because, the Koach of Teva is sholit on the outer layer, obscuring the Hashgacha Pratis that hides therein. Okay, so right. So now state lahagid baboiker chastecha ve'emunascha baleilos. We speak of Hashem's chasodim, openly by day, and His faith by night. Right? So the pasuk is clearly saying, at night when things are dark, you need Emunah. When things are dark, you need Emunah. Right? 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 Lahagid baboker chastecha. In the morning we openly speak of Hashem's chasodim. We're going to come back to that. It's the side of the dibartem el asela that was supposed to be. Lahagid baboker. When we clearly see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chasodim and we talk about it, right? That's a state that's not called Emunah. Emunah is baleilos. Emunah is baleilos. Right? To explain. Right? To explain. Right? And we spoke about this a few times. Right now, seeing this stender in front of me, it is not grammatically correct. The word I am ma'amin, that there's a stender here, does not apply. Because you can't say Emunah regarding anything that is a clear, visible fact. And a clear, visible fact is in the realm of Yediyah. If I don't see it, I could say, I believe that there are stenders in the Beis Medrash. I could say that if I am not currently seeing the Beis Medrash. I believe that there's stenders, right? Maybe because there are. It's a realistic expectation. Right? The whole term Emunah, right, however you're going to translate it, it always applies to a davar shebeseter. Like you say, Emunah miloshen, trust. He's a ne'eman. I trust him. When do you need to trust a person? If he came with the merchandise to the table, you don't have to trust him. I trust him, meaning, I'm going to give him money without seeing the schayra, because I trust him to bring the schayra afterwards. You understand? Every usage of the word Emunah always goes on, whether it's faith, whether it's trust. It always goes on where the end result or the whole picture is somewhat obscure, and that's why you need Emunah. Because if it's all there on the table, what do you need Emunah for? You don't have to trust him. He brought the schayra. I heard from my Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro, right, that the MS, everyone knows the famous drasha, the Medrash Rabbah Dvarim, MS, the beginning, the middle, the end, right? Aleph is beginning, MS, which goes with Yediyah, right? You see the whole thing from beginning to end. Emunah, it's Aleph Mem Nun. It stops in the middle. You don't see forward. You know the past very well. What's your Emunah based on? Track record. So the Aleph represents the past, right? Right? Right. The Aleph represents the past, or it represents your knowledge that there's He who is one. And there's Mem Nun, that's the present. We don't see past the present. What's going to be a minute from now, Mem Nun is the middle of the Isis. That's where it stops. It stops in the present. You don't see ahead. That's when you need Emunah. So you rely on your track record. You rely on whether Aleph represents the past or whether Aleph represents he who's won. You rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or you rely on the track record, and based on that you continue. You don't see ahead. You don't see. Emunascha balelis. So it's a famous Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Aleph. Vaya emunas itecha. Chos shos chachma das, yiras Hashem yotzoro. Emunas zeh seder zroim. Emunah is seder zroim, which is all the mitzvahs atfilius ba'aretz. Right. So why is seder zroim called emunah? So there's a famous Tosfos that brings a Yerushalmi. Tosfos on the spot. Mamin b'chel lomim zrei. You got to trust God to go planting, because some stuff, sometimes the kernels that you plant is edible food, and you're trusting HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that He's going to make it grow and give it back to you tenfold. That's what Tosfos brings the name to Yerushalmi. But another pshat that they say is, all mitzvah tzilias parts is basically, giving away your hard-earned bread, leket, shicha, peah, right? Trumas, maisras, maiser sheni, maiser ani, shmita. Don't work for a year. You need a lot of emunah to be giving away so much of your resources that you work so hard for, and bichlal to not work a whole year. Right, it's all emunah. Right, these are the mitzvahs that are miyuchad for Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the place of emunah. Right, that now everything's going to go in a levush tiv'i, and the pure hashgacha will now be milubash, will be hidden in a levush tiv'i. That's going to be choshech. For there, you need emunah. But now, what's the difference between Emunah and Daas? No, we spoke about the circumstantial difference, but we didn't explain that Lamaseh, the difference between Emunah and Daas is all in the mind, right? Because the truth is the truth, right? Reality is reality. Reality is reality, right? The MS doesn't change, right? We say in Birchas Kriya Shema in the morning that Chazal say Mefurish is based the Chazal the Gemara says Mefurish that Chazal based the Matbei Tefillah on the pasuk Lahagid Baboker Chastecha Ve'emunascha Balelos. So we say MS v'yatziv in the morning and MS v'emunah at night. Both are MS. The MS which is firm, and undeniable, right? Right? Both are MS, right? When your connection to reality is as such that not only are you aware of it, but you're in total contact with it, right? And your mind is makif the reality, that matzav is called yediyah. When you're aware of reality, but the mind is not makif reality. Reality is bigger than the mind. That's called emunah. Right? Gave an example from the law of gravity. Right? Some people, everyone is aware of the law of gravity. Everyone is aware of the law of gravity. Right? So some people have hesberim for it. Right? Whether you masber like Aristotle or Newton or Einstein. Right? So that's called yediyah, right? But there's nobody that is not mamin gravity. So let's say someone doesn't understand why in heck should Earth pull you down, even though he doesn't understand why in heck it should be so. He has 100 kashas on the way law of gravity is explained to him. He's not about to jump off a building because he has a bunch of kashas on gravity. Doesn't mean he could fly, right? Because it's an accepted truth. That you don't know why, but it's true. That's called emunah. Emunah is you're connected to the reality, but the seichel is not makif it. When the seichel is taka makif it, it's called das. That's the whole difference. Reality is reality. It's your connection to reality that changes. Sometimes we're connected to reality in a Emunah way. Like everyone accepts the law of gravity, whether they understand it or not. It's a fact. So it's called that they're mamin, they're ne'eman to gravity. They're not going to try to do anything, without, cheshbening that there's a law of gravity that they have to take into account. And there's people that, let's say, understand it. It's called yediyah. But the reality is the reality. Ben kach or ben kach. Emunah and yediyah is a state of mind. Right.
I have to just stand up. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
In one place.
Right? But it's this state of the mind not being makif. The state of the mind, that's called laila, that's called choshech. The state of, where the mind is makif, that's called das. Now, kayadua, the big split in humanity that, as it were, move people down. We say it's really a scale. When you're high up on the scale, it's called Daas. You're makif the truth. That's called Daas. When you're just aware of the truth, that's called Emunah. Now, that scale, humanity had two events that caused that slide of scale. Right? Two parallel events. One was called the Chet Eitz Hadas Tovara. And we spoke about this many times. Right? That that the Rambam, famous Rambam Morna Buchin, that when before the Chet Adam had Das Emes V'Sheker, right? And then when he ate and Das Emes V'Sheker is Taka Makif reality. It's Das that's Makif the Emes, and it sees what is, and Mimela it knows what is and what isn't, right? Das Tovara is not Makif reality. It only sees upside versus downside. Right? And of course, in a state of Das, it's hard to have Sveikus. In a state of Emunah, that's really what you need. You need, if you don't have Emunah, then you do have Sveikus. We're going to talk about that. If you don't have Emunah, you don't just have Sveikus, you have all types of frustration. Right? So after Adam Rishon eats from the Eitz Hadas, it's called Hamina Eitz. Or it's Sveikus come up. Did you eat from the tree? HaKadosh speaks to him B'loshen Suffolk to accentuate what he's fallen into. Now, Kayadua, Haman min atar minayin Hamina Eitz. That's a remiss to Amalek. Haman's Maruma is over there. Because Amalek is Gematria Suffolk. Amalek makes Sveikus. But you can only fall into Sveikus when you fall from Das. And then, when you fall from Das, you have Sveikus. The countermeasure against Sveikus is Emunah. That's the countermeasure to Suffolk. That when your mind is susceptible to Sveikus, when you're that far away from the truth, the countermeasure to it is Emunah. To remain connected to the MS even though you're not makif the MS. And if you don't have Emunah, you'll have Suffolk. So now Milchemes Amalek, right? Milchemes Amalek. Right. Interestingly enough, right? So it says Vayavu Amalek, Vayilachem Yisrael b'Rafidim. So Chazal Darshan Rafidim sherafu yedehem min haTorah. Their hands slipped, or they're weak. Their grip on Torah loosened. Right? Right? They lost their grip on the Torah. Right? So what's that lashon? Lost their grip on the Torah. Roughly a damn in that Torah. Right, so a lot of pshatim were said, but what we want to say in our mahal, lose the grip on the Torah. Of course, you believe in Torah, right? Having grip on the Torah is Daas. Or look at it this way, put in slightly different terms. When a person is in a perfect state of das, so his hands do whatever the Torah says, right? But then there's when a person's in distance, he's in, he believes in Torah, but he's not so, he believes that the Torah is true, but he doesn't know that the Torah is true, which is just a lack of, as it were, intimacy. And that lack of closeness to the Torah is how a person believes, you shouldn't steal, but he steals anyway. That's called the Rifyon Yad Torah, the distance between the hands and the Torah. That distance between Machshava and Maisa, that another word for that distance is a lack of Das. So now Niflamot, by the Milchama of Amalek, so it says, right? The hands lost their grip on the Torah, losing the grip on the Torah. So then Moshe Rabbeinu by the Milchama has his hands above his head, right? And what does it say? The Pasuk says, "Vayu yadav Emunah ad bo Hashemesh." His hands were Emunah, raised in obviously in prayer, but Emunah, right? Because Emunah is the tikkun. Emunah is the tikkun for when Rafu Yedeim min HaTorah, which is really symbolizes a lack of Das. Das means connection, right? So you have to now raise your hands above your head, because your head is now fallen away from the Torah. You have to raise your hands above your head, and that's called Emunah. Hands above the head is called Emunah. Of course, it's called that, because your head is full, your head sunk, right? Your head sunk. You have to raise your hands above your head. And with that koach, they were goyver over Amalek. Amalek is Sfekus, the countermeasure for Suffolk, and Suffolk comes from Rafi Yadem in HaTorah, when you fall from Das. So the countermeasure for that is Emunah, and that's the hands above the head. Your head has sunk, so push your hands over your head. That's Emunah. When the situation is over your head, go with it anyway. Do it anyway. That's Emunah. That's hands over the head. And with that koch, they were menatzeach Amalek. The message of the hands above the head is that you go with the Rebbe Shalom whether you understand it or not. Do what he says, whether you understand it or not. That's hands above the head. So it's not the hands above the head that won the war, it's the message. You do what the Rebbe Shalom wants, whether you understand it or not. That's hands above the head. When Akash was manig, lamala from the Rosh, do it anyway. Put your hands over your head. And that's called Vayiyadav Emunah. And that's the message. With that, they win over Amalek. Because the countermeasure to Suffolk is Emunah. If you're in Das, you don't have Sveikus in the first place. When you fall into Sveikus, the countermeasure is Emunah. So now, by Maimon Har Sinai, there was a tikkun for this. Yisrael Shamdu Har Sinai Paskas Masan Chazal say there was a tikkun for Chet Adam Arishan. Klaiso raised up to the level of Arishan Kodem Achet. That was by Matan Torah. There was Zocha to the Eitz HaChaim, which is Torah. Right, but as we well know, you know, the Cheda Ego made a comeback. Cheda Ego, for reasons that we've explained, it was a comeback, you know. It was sort of like doing the Chet Eitz Hadas all over again. And of course, you know, the nafkamina was, nafkamina lemaisa. The nafkamina lemaisa, right, was misa. That when Paskas were masas like Rishon Kodem Achet, they didn't die anymore. So the Cheda Ego brought back the misa. And Chazal Darshan, Ani Amarti Elohim Atim Neo Kuchem, this Kodem was by Maimon Har Sinai. Achin Kodem Tamusul Kachar Asarim Tipolo was after the Cheda Ego. So the Cheda Ego brought back Misa. Oh. Now what's Tahara? What's Tahara? Well, you know, Tahara in general. Right? Now, you know, Chazal say that all Tumah came from the Chet Adam Arishan. All Tumah. All forms of Tumah. The Kuzri says all forms of Tumah are a form of death. Like your Tumas Masons, like the Avi Avosa Tumah, and all the Tumas are like forms of death. So Niflamon, so Tahara is the anti of Tumah, right? And Paradum is the anti of Tumas Mace. It's the anti of Tumas Mace. Right? So now we have Rashi in this week's parasha. You know, Paraduma, Sarayo, Mashal, Ben Mer, the Ben Shatinik, Paltira, Tavo, Ima, with the Kanech Sos Bina. Klai so as were pooped in the king's palace with the Cheda Ego. The Paraduma is the mother that has to clean up the poop. Paraduma is a tikkun for Cheta Ego. And Rashi Mipira, the Yesod of Ramesha Darshan, goes through the psukim a second time, allegorically, how all the avodas of Paraduma are parallel to something that happened to Cheta Ego. Because Cheta Ego brought Misa, Paraduma is misgaber over the Misa and takes away Tumas space. So now we can understand why Taharos is called Das. We said Zroim is called Emunah. Tahara, Kosishu is Chachma, but Das is Seder Taharos. Because Tahara, in general, which is anti-Tumah, and Paraduma in particular, which is anti-Tumas Meis, is the antidote to the Chet Eitz Hadas, which was paralleled by the Chet HaEgo. The Chet Eitz Hadas that took us from Das Torah to Das Tovara. So it means that Hilchos Tum V'Tara is where it brings you back to the real Das. The real Das that's above Emunah. The real Das that when you're there, it's not, Emunah becomes, as it were, a non-factor because you're in direct contact with the truth. Das Miloshin connection. So Taharos, which brings you back to Lamala from Tumah, is called Das. So Zroim is Emunah, Tahara is Das. Moshe Rabbeinu was not involved in the Cheda Ego. He was in Shemayim at the time. He had nothing to do with it. He was totally unaffected by it. But not only that, more than that, not only was he totally uninvolved in the chet, because he wasn't even on earth at the time, but he personally had a halacha as if he's at Ma'amad Har Sinai perpetually, as paralleled by the din that he was usur in an isha. And that's mamash learned out from pasuk that the Kodesh Baruch told them, "Lechu shuvu lo lechem." Right? Ma'amad Har Sinai is over. Go back to your families. Va'ata po amodi madi. Right? But you continue standing with me. Moshe Rabbeinu stands before Hashem on a Ma'amad Har Sinai level perpetually. Right? Klal Yisrael lost the Kesarim of Naasim and Ishma. Moshe Rabbeinu took them all for himself. That was the Karnei Hoy, Chazal say. All the Kesarim are by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu himself is on the level of Daas. And that's why the door that's under him, the door that is called in Lashon Chazal, Dor Dea. Kayadu al pi Svarda Moshe Rabbeinu's meet as Daas. We spoke about this in Parsha Shlach. We spoke about Shlach L'cha L'datcha. Right? Because there was always this challenge, even in the first door, of bridging Daas with Emunah. Eretz Yisrael's Emunah, Moshe Rabbeinu's Daas. Shlach L'cha L'datcha was the attempt of the Meraglim, we explained, was to bridge the Daas with Emunah. But there is a big nafkamina between the door, of Moshe Rabbeinu, what's called his door, and the door that went into Eretz Yisrael, which is the door that we meet in this week's parasha, because they were adults at the time of Ma'amad Har Sinai. This is the door that a few months later was Nechshel Mecheda Meraglim. They were adults at the time of Ma'amad Har Sinai. So let me buy adult Tantimash, they were above the age of Esrim. That's called an adult Legamri, because until less than Esrim, not Chayiv B'dinei Shemaim. But adult, that the Hanhaga of the door is, when you talk about the Hanhagas HaKlal, the Madrega of the cloud is the Manhigim are the adults. 13-year-olds, even if they're culpable for their own actions, B'dinei Adam, it's not called that they set the tone of the door. Right? The Moshe, the door that died in the Midbar were adults at the time of Ma'amad Har Sinai. Which means that they still remembered and they had Hanhaga, even if it was only for 40 days. They had Hanhaga in this Tekufa of Lamala from the Chet. They were under Hanhaga of pure Das. We can explain that psychologically, but we can also explain that spiritually. Psychologically, they remembered what it was like, to be Lamala, to be in the Madrega of Das, right? Das Torah, above Das Tovara. The Das that's Lamala from Emunah, right? But not only they do remember that, and mitzad their memory they have a shaykh that Madrega, but spiritually we know. All right, this is the door that went through Shviras Haluchos, right? So we say, Hizaru bechacham sheshachach talmudo sheluchos v'shivrei luchos munachin barim, right? A Talmud Chacham that forgot all his learning, you still have to be mechabed him. That learning that he had is not lost. And the raya is shivrei luchos munachin barim. This is the door of shivrei luchos. The luchos were broken up, but shivrei luchos munachin barim. They have a roishem in them of this madrega of Moshe Rabbeinu. So as a word, that this, even though Chet HaEgo was a rip between them and Moshe, the rip is not as extreme as the next generation that we encountered since Parsha, that were Ketanim. Ketanim, I don't just mean under the age of 20, they were Ketanim mitzad Dinei Shemaim, but Ketanim mitzad that they were not part of the Hanhaga of the door, right? They totally grew into adulthood under the tkufa of post-chet. So they have less of a shaykhus to the madrega of Moshe Rabbeinu than those that were adults at the time of Ma'amad Har Sinai. So that's why the door that was under Moshe Rabbeinu is still called the door Dea, even though they were Nichshon and Cheda Egel, because they were there with him at Mamad Har Sinai. As that door had Hanhaga, in a matzav pre-chet. So if they fell from it, it's still stored, as it were, in their DNA, call it. It's stored in them. Shivrei Luchas Munachim Bar. But the door that weren't adults by Mamad Har Sinai, right? So the distance between them and Moshe Rabbeinu is even greater. Right? So now this is what's happening in this week's parsha. This week's parsha is the cutoff point, right? Where a line is being drawn between Moshe Rabbeinu and the people. Right? But the challenge was to maybe not draw the line, that there should be a connection. Right? What happened over here? Right? Kayadu, the Torah is Nimshal Lamayim. And the in of Be'era Shel Miriam is the in of how the Torah settles inside of a person, like the waters that he drinks, or a very, very authentic Makara spring, that when the Ariya Kodesh taught Reb Chaim Vital is Seidus, right? Reb Chaim Vital initially just couldn't, it wasn't, the Chok was not Mityashev, is the Lashon of the Sfarim. It just didn't settle in him, so the Ari put him in a little boat that went out to the Kinneret, where the Be'era Shel Miriam is Ganuz. He was mashkim from the Be'era Shel Miriam, Vaz Nisyashva Chochma V'kirva, and Chochma settled, right? The Be'er Shel Miriam is connected to, the Torah, how Torah settles in a person, like he drinks water. Getting water out of the rock is nifla ma'oid. This generation had a heart of stone. Well, Klai had a heart of stone ever since Shmiras HaLuchas, really. Right? The first Luchas were Maaseh Elokim, right? The second Luchas are earthly tablets, right? And we explained, the Sforim explained, Luchas represent the heart. Chosvei ma Luchas libecha, right? We used to have a heart, a holy heart. Now we have a heart of stone that we try to superimpose the Torah upon it to correct it. But like I said, the generation that was under Moshe Rabbeinu experienced, however briefly, the Maaseh, Luchas Maaseh Elokim. It was just for a second, right? This door, didn't have that experience. So it's a door of a heart of stone. And we have to get the water out of the stone. Getting the water out of stone represents, Dvarim hayotzim min alev nechnasim min alev. You get water out of the heart of stone. Dvarim hayotzim min alev nechnasim. You get water out of the stone. That's the water that can enter into the stone heart. Right? This, May Meriva was an attempt for Moshe Rabbeinu to give Torah directly to this generation. As opposed to what the Mishnah says in others. Moshe kivo Torah misira u'masor liYoshua. Wait a minute, it ain't masor liYoshua. It was most of the whole class. No. Right? Because only Yoshua was Makabel from Moshe. Yoshua, that whole generation died, right? That whole generation died, except for Yoshua and Kalev, right? So now Kalev, was a great man, but whatever. He wasn't, the biggest Talmid Chacham of the door. Only Yoshua is the only one left alive that's called a Talmid of Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? All the other people of that generation, which are the people in this week's Parsha, they're all called Yoshua's Talmidim. Yoshua Masolas Canaan. The Shimon's Canaan of that door, they're Yoshua's Talmidim. They're Moshe Rabbeinu's Talmidim. Right? But over here, the attempt was they'll get Torah directly from Moshe Rabbeinu. That was the idea of, giving them, water from the stone. They have hearts of stone, right? Getting water out of the stone is the water that goes into the stone heart. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu was attempting to be manchil Torah directly, that this generation would be called his generation also, and Mimeli go into Eretz Yisrael with them. So Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to give them Daas, give them his level of Daas. So now it's so good, how the parsha opens up with Parah Aduma, that, the idea of Parah Aduma is being misgaber over the Chet Egel. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he's there. And that's why, to him, Parah Aduma is no mystery. If you have real Das Torah, for you, Chukim are no mystery. Chukim are mystery to a person who's in Das Tovara, right? A person who needs Emunah, to be connected. So for him, Chukim is a mystery. But if you're on the level of Das Torah, for you, Chukim is as natural as Mishpatim. So the parsha opens up with the level of Parah Aduma, which is being Mizgaber over Chet Egel. And then Meruba's Moshe Rabbeinu understands Parah Aduma. And now we're trying to bridge the level of Das Torah with the level of Emunah. That the Torah is the same Torah, right? The Torah is the same Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is connected to the one Torah, but Madregas Das. We're connected to the one Torah, but Madregas Emunah. Or at least, subjectively, to the Chukim aspect of it, for sure. Mitzad the Madrega of Emunah. So that's it. L'chari megal Torah Torah la'acherem chuka. But this is the reason why by chukim is the remes to amelus b'Torah. Because since Torah is bigger than you, that's why you need amelus. Physics you don't need amelus for. So that's how the remes for amelus b'Torah is in this week's parsha and also in the Chukasai Telechu. Let's say, Adam Kiyosno, you have to even be willing to die learning, because you know why it's so hard to, because you're mortal. And why are you mortal? Because of Cheder Tzadas. Why are you mortal? Why are you Shaykh to Misa? Right? Because of Cheder Ego. So that's why you have to countermeasure, die for Torah. Right? Because you're so distant, but because of your mortality. So as because you went down to a level of being shaykh to misa, that's why as a countermeasure, Adam Kiyam Espoil, you should virtually die for learning, as it were, closing the distance that you created by bringing misa to the world. But Moshe Rabbeinu is on this level that he's l'malach from all this, so to him it's all pashut, right? Or for Moshe Rabbeinu, nes b'toch nes is not absurd. Right? And that's the darga of Torah. That's what the Ramban says. The darga of Torah is nes b'toch nes. Which to me and you blows the mind because we're so far away, so we're connected to it in a Emunah way. But if you're close and you have real Das, it's as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, which is Moshe Rabbeinu's level. So everything that's going on in this week's parsha is makif, is the koach of Torah. That Torah b'shorsho is on the level of nes b'toch nes, which the Das Tovara can't take, but a person who has Das Torah sees it as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, and that's Moshe Rabbeinu's level. The people are connected to it, connected to all this truth in a Emunah type of connection. So now Moshe Rabbeinu wants to be the manig of these people that are on an Emunah level. So, the most basic function of Das is Dibur. Man is a bar Das. What's a gilui of his madrega of Das? Dibur. Hadeya v'hadibur l'chai olamim. Deya and Dibur go together. Moshe Shapiro told us in Shir. The mashal of Chazal in the Gemara and Ksubis, Ra'ua midaberes, they saw having beer. Ra'ua midaberes is lashon naki because dibur is connection, like also das is connection, right? We spoke about that. Dibur is connection, das is connection. A bar das speaks. A cherish that doesn't speak is not a bar das, right? V'di bartem el hasela, right? Moshe, of course, goes through a challenge, Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, the truth is, it was already foretold, like Rashi says. Moshe and these people are not, they're not in sync. but we don't want Moshe to die with the door on Midbar Stamkach, because they'll think he was guilty of the same sins they're guilty of. So we have to throw a challenge to catch him on, right? To catch him on. But this challenge is not a davar shamai. It's mamash to accentuate the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and this door, why he cannot be the manig of this door. So the challenge is, the dibartim al asah, okay, you're going to put das into their hearts of stone. The dibartim al asah v'nosa meimov, and that's the kal v'chomer. They would have made the kal v'chomer, the rock has no das, right? Kal v'chomer us, right? So, Einochinami, right? The two things over here, right? So for the first kasha we asked, well, isn't hitting a rock and getting water also a rock being Makayim Diburo Shel Makom, right? No, but we don't want stam obedience. The challenge was, as it were, to infuse das into the hearts of stone, which would be represented by Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to rock, which is to communicate in a das type way. And the Kal V'chomer was supposed to be, right, the rock doesn't have das, it's a hard, it's stone, but still das is mashpia on it. The dibur shel makom, dibur. So Kal V'chomer us, we can be makabel dibur, i.e. be makabel das. Hitting is not das. Hitting may be to beat someone into submission. Submission wasn't the point. The point is that there'll be a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His Torah built on das, which is dibur, not built on, being beaten into submission. And really, Stam, the second kasha we asked was really a fake question, because the koach of bechira, which is also from das, a person who's not a bar das does not have bechira, is not responsible for his actions. The koach of das is the koach of bechira is to do what Hashem wants. It is wrong. It is wrongly portrayed that bechira is the ability to fail. It is wrong. It's not true. The ability to fail is a Yetzer Hara. When Azza and Azael, the two fallen angels, got a Yetzer Hara, they were not able to overcome. You know why? Because they don't have Bechira. It is wrong what people say, that they think that, Bechira is the ability to fail. Not true. The ability to fail is a Yetzer Hara. Right? Just like HaKadosh doesn't give a Yetzer Hara to things that don't have Bechira, because there's no point in giving them a Yetzer Hara, because there's nothing for the Bechira to overcome. We have Bechira to overcome the Yetzer Hara. The koach of Bechira is the koach to overcome. Because I'm a bar das, only a bar das has Bechira. Because I'm a bar das, that's why I know better and I don't give in to my temptations. The Indian was that even their hearts of stone, the soy, the luchas shnias, even their hearts of stone could have the full intensity of Das Torah. But what HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Hu let Moshe fall to their level. They came complaining and kvetching. The Rambam points this out in Shemona Prophet. Albeit Klaiso came complaining and kvetching, right? But was the Shechina upset? HaKadosh Hu did not display any anger. He just said, stop very calmly, Hakel Sam, Vetna Mayim, gather them together, which is again a tikkun for Chet HaEgo. We point this out in Shir. The Lashon Hakel comes up over and over again in that parasha. Right? It was supposed to be a tikkun for Vayikalu al Aaron, that they should do the ego. Like we explained also in Parshas Vayakel, that comes up, right after Parshas Ego and Parshas Vayakel. So this was Vayikalu, was going to be a tikkun for the Cheda Egel. The nation is, as it were, going to connect to Moshe Rabbeinu's Das. right? And then the Shekhinah was very cool about it. Give them water. I mean, even though they're complaining, right? You just give them calmly water. We're going to give them Daas. But Moshe Rabbeinu's failure was, typical human failure. If you start talking to me angry, I'm going to answer you angry, right? And that the Rambam writes in the Shemona Prague, Moshe Rabbeinu's chet that he was nichshol and kas. So what does it say when a person's koyes? Right? Remember, they led him into it. They were angry, so he got angry. Emunah amayrim, amin asa. So what does it say? If you're angry, im novihu nevuasa mistalekes, im chochamhu chochmosay mistalekes. And that's what happened to Rav. He had silu kamoichin. What happened? So Rav Moshe Shapiro explained: when you're angry, you don't speak anymore. How do you communicate? Right? And that's Rav Moshe Shapiro. He hit the rock. He lost. Well, when people are angry, they don't speak anymore. They lose the dibur because dibur is from chachma, from das. And when there's kas, there's silu kamoichin. Right? So Moshe Shapiro had experienced silu kamoichin. He fell from his madrega because the people pulled him into their mood, which wasn't the mood of the Shekhinah. He fell from his madrega, and he wasn't mistader very well in a situation which requires Emunah, because he's not used to that. He's used to Das. Moshe Rabbeinu only knows from Emunah when trying to think even deeper about the secrets of Hashem. He's not used to having Emunah or needing Emunah in Olam Hazeh. He was pulled into that situation of Silu Kadas. And he started saying, Hamina Sela, Hamina, you think from it? Hamina Eitz. He fell into his matzav of Silu Kadas. And he was not mistader very well. He didn't speak to the rock, he hit the rock. Which, by the way, has ramifications on us, as we explained, because this was supposed to be another Matan Torah, and that's why we have to bang our heads against the wall to get any chloride in any sugya.
What was supposed to be another Matan Torah?
No. This giving them water. If it would have been v'dibartem elasela, then also every time you push it, learn, you'd automatically have clarity. Just say the words and the clarity will come. It was just like the Dibartasal, the water would come. If he would have been Matzliach, and he would have infused us with his Das, then our learning, just learn it, now we have to bang our heads against the wall. We need Amelus. We need Amelus because it didn't work. There was Silu Kadas, and when you're Silu Kadas, it's with Petch. And that's why our Petch is the Amelus Batara, Adam Kiyom Spoil. We have to bang our heads against the wall to get the water. But it was the sign that Moshe Rabbeinu is out of sync with the door. And that's when the part Yan Lohem Mantem be Zot Sfasemes. Moshe Rabbeinu, not just Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was Das. Moshe Rabbeinu, you don't have Emunah because you're Das. And when you go into a situation which requires Emunah, you get frustrated. You get, on edge. It's not for you. Zelo b'shvilcha. Not Hashem the Emunah was a kaifer. So when you get into a situation where the koich hanefesh called Emunah is required, which is the whole in of Eretz, so you don't function. Zelo b'shvilcha. So what does it say? You're like sun, you're like daytime, Das. Yoshua is like the Levana. The Levana illuminates the night. Yoshua is on par with the door. He will be the luminary of what lights up the night. The more it's not for you. You're Das, you're day, you're Dor Midbar, Dor Deya. It's not for you. But to further accentuate, the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and the door, so this again comes up by the Nachash. The Nachash is like another Milchemes Amalek all over again. But again, it's the same word, just like the hands up is Klai Yisrael showing Emunah. Again, you know, Nes betoch Nes, you know, is Emunah. Again, the Nachash HaNachoshes represents, you know, Klai Yisrael's, you know, Klai Yisrael's connection to the Torah. Klai Yisrael's connection to the Torah is in a Emunah type way, which is the countermeasure for Suffolk, the countermeasure for Amalek. And that's again, you know, is again accentuated by the story of the Nachash HaNachoshes, that also the Chi Nachash Meimis U'Machaya El Lomach Shekol Zman Shizom Mistakli B'Rapei Mala Mishtav Azil Aviv Shashamayim. It was a Nes B'Toch Nes, right, which is Emunah, It's Emunah for Klal Yisrael.
How is that represented by if you would say that the Rosh, so to speak, is Daas, and the Rav is saying that you put your hands up above that because it's a situation that requires a Munah.
Right.
But L'chora usually,
the head sunk, as it were.
Meaning it doesn't.
Right. So now, roughly, you know, as it were, it's closing the distance.
They don't have ability to use the Daas to connect. They have to
Right.
do it with Emunah.
That's right. To raise the hands back up, you know, is with Emunah. And the Nachash HaNachoshes was again a similar thing. It's all this is happening over again in this week's parsha. You know, differentiating between the Das, which is Taharis, which is Para Aduma, accentuated, which is Moshe Rabbeinu's Madrega, and the Dorberes, which is Emunah. Zroim Zes, yeah. Emunah Zes Seder Zroim. All right. What do we want to explore?
Okay,